Dear students, let us continue our learning the core system software and compilers. This is the third session of the second topic from the module 5. The topics covered under this session are 3 address code from the topic intermediate code generation. Myself, Dr. Suresh Adi from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Kendra Engineering College, Bantwal, Mangaluru. In the previous classes, we learned the construction of a directed acyclic graph. Let us move ahead. So now in this class, we start the construction of the 3 address code over there. As the name itself indicates, 3 address code. There are 3 addresses are there. So 3 addresses means a maximum of at most 1 operator is allowed on the right side. So that is, if you take up the expression as x plus y multiplication with z. If my expression is x plus y multiplication with z. So now here, this is an arithmetic expression which involves 2 calculations over there. One is multiplication, other is the addition. The 3 address code will do this one in step by step. So step by step means what? First I need to solve the values of y into z. So that will be solved first and it will be stored in the temporary variable 1. T1 will be equal to y into z. The next x will be added with the T1, x plus T1. That will be stored in the temporary variable 2. So a complex expression is split into the simpler steps wherein one operation is performed in one time. So that representation we call it as the 3 address code. So now here if you observe there are 3 addresses are there. One is a temporary variable 1, address for the y and the address for the z. So there are 3 addresses are there. 3 addresses indicate 3 operands over there. 2 operands and 1 to hold the result. So 3 operands over there. That representation we call it as a 3 address code. So here T1 and T2 they are called as the compiler generated temporary variables. These are the temporary variables which the compiler has generated. Fine. So now let us move forward. Let us take the example of our old expression of a star b minus c. So this is the example, that is this is our DAG. So now how this will be converted into 3 address code. So first what to be solved? First will be our b minus c to be solved over there. That is T1 will be equal to b minus c. That is the first step. So this is how we convert to the 3 address code. A DAG is converted into the 3 address code. That result is multiplied with the A. That is T2 will be equal to A star T1. So T1 is multiplied with the A. Then this we have done. Then that will be added with the A. That will be added with the A. That is T3 will be equal to A plus T2. So now this part we have done. Let us go to the other part. Other part is again I need to have the b minus c. That result is already there in the T1. That is to be multiplied with the d. That is T4 will be equal to T1. What is T1? It is b minus c. T1 multiplication with the d. So now the right side is done. Now these two are to be added. That is T5 will be equal to T3 plus T4. So this representation we call it as the 3 address code. So this is our 3 address code. Yes, DAG directed acyclic graph is converted into the 3 address code. Now, when you observe this 3 address code, what are the components which are present in the 3 address code? So if I observe my previous example, if you remember there I used 3 addresses and 1 operator is used over there. That is maximum of 1 operation I can perform in one time. That is a two operands it will include and one operand to hold the result. Normally that operand to hold the result is a compiler generated temporary variable. That is a temporary variable T1 and T2, they are termed as the temporary variables and they are used over there. Including it, we are having the three addresses over there. And what is the other things which are present? A operator is present, whether it is an addition, subtraction, multiplication. An instruction or the operator is present over there. That is that each three address code is built up of two components. One will be the addresses and other is the instructions. Addresses are the operands and the instructions will hold the instructions may be an operator, so which may be an unary operator, binary operator. That depends on your instructions. Okay? So whatever the operation you are performing. Right? So that is your three address code is built from the two concepts. That is your addresses. Addresses are nothing but the variables, or it may be a constant. It may be a numerical value also. Along with that one, we used to have the instructions over there. Right? So when we move on, the address can be one of the, it may be a name. That is the name of a variable. In the case of your example, what we took, that is x plus y star z. X plus y star z. So in this case, that is a T1, we used it as a y into z. So wherein y and z, these are the variable names. These are the variable names, wherein T1 is the temporary variable. In place of z, I can have the 4 over here. So now what happens? It will be y into 4. So that is, it can be a constant also. That is, the address can be a name of the variable, or it can be a constant, or it can be a compiler generated temporary variable like T1, T2, T3 and all. Right? Then the next one, the operator. The instructions. The instructions example may be, the first instruction may be, it may be of the form x plus y. That is, in this case, it is an binary operator over there. Fine. So in this case, is what happens? T1 will be equal to x into y. T1 equal to x into y. So now this instruction is having the two operands on each side, one on the left side and other on the right side. So this can be an arithmetic operator, or it can be a logical operator, or it can be a logical operator like a greater than 2. Fine, it may be an arithmetic operator, relational operator, or it can be a logical operator like a and 2. Fine, so that is the first variation. The first variation will be of the format x equal to y operator z, where OP is in binary, arithmetic or the logical operations. And your x, y, and the z, these are the addresses. That's why the three addresses. Then the next example, x equal to minus 2. So now minus is an unary operator now. So a minus is an unary operator, or not x we used to write. These cases, right? So wherein the operator is an unary operator, that is the second format. That is x equal to operator y. So in this case, this is a case for your binary operation. So it's a case for your unary operations. The possible unary operations are unary minus, logical negation, and the conversion operators. Right? So they are conversion like your int to float or a to I. That is your ASCII to integer conversion. Fine. Or int to float. Fine. So those are all comes under your unary operations over there. The next one will be an assignment operator. Assignment like x equal to y. That is, x will take up the value from the y, wherein the value of y is copied to the x over there. Right? So that is, it's an instruction for your copy instructions. Fine. These are all regarding the instruction. Then let us look at the other category over there. The first one, unconditional jump. The best example for the unconditional jump is your goto. So your goto, and I will put some label over there. Label, let it be ABC. So where ABC may be present before your goto, if it is a case, then we call it as a backward jump, or it may be present after your goto statement. If it is a case, we call it as a forward jump over there. Right? So it's an unconditional. We are not checking any conditions over there. So whenever we get this goto, whatever the label next to this one, so we'll jump to that address. We'll jump to that address. This is an example for your unconditional jump instruction. Conditional jump instructions. In the conditional jump instruction, first we check the condition. If x go to L. Now we check the condition for the x. If x is true, only then we will go to the L, or else we won't. If I want to go for a negation over there, then what is this one? It will be if false x. If false x, then go to L. This x can be replaced with your relational operator like x greater than y. If x greater than y, go to L. Or if x less than y, go to L. So even we can use in that category. That is, these are the example for your unconditional jump instructions. Just merely placing the go to and the label is an example for your unconditional jump. And we check the condition, then we make the jump. That is your conditional jump instructions. These are the two variants for the jump instructions. One will be the conditional jump, other is the unconditional jump. In the conditional jump instructions, we can have the relational operator can be used over there, as I told earlier. If x greater than y, if x greater than y, then you go to label L, go to L, go to L. Fine. So now we check the condition before making the go to. Here we check the condition. If the value of x is greater than y, only then we will go to L, or else we won't go. Fine. So that will be, we can use the relational operator can be used in the conditional jump instructions. Fine. Then the next one, procedure calls. So in the procedure calls, if you remember how we make the call for the procedure, add x comma y comma z, add x comma y comma z. So now in place of this one, this will be substituted with, first parameter is parameter x, so that it will be parameter x. The next one is the parameter y. Next one is the parameter y. Then next will be your parameter z. Parameter z. So then we make the call as a call. What is the name of the function? Add. How many parameters are there? 3. So this will be the format we use for the function call. Right? That is, we specify the parameters over here, formal parameters. That is your, how many parameters in this case? 3. X, y and the z. Then 3 parameter. What is the name of the function? Add we are putting over here. If this is to be received with the value to the p over there, if I have the format like this, p equal to, then we substitute with the p equal to call of this one. P equal to call of this one. Fine. So that is if that procedure is returning any value. If that procedure is returning any value, then we use this notation is used for the function call. That is what we call the procedure call. We use this notation is used over there. Fine. Then the next one, that is for your array indexing. For the array indexing, we use this notation, that is x equal to y of I. X equal to y of I. So here, or y of I equal to x, both are possible. Y of I equal to x. Fine. Here, you need to remember that you have to measure in terms of the memory units. Memory unit means you are in terms of the how many bits or the bytes you need to make the jump. That you need to be aware of it. Right? So that will be regarding your indexing. That is your array indexing. We use this notation. That is the indexed instructions are used of the format x equal to y of I or x of I equal to y. Here the instruction x of y sets the value of x with the value in the memory location I, memory units, beyond the address of the I, y we are using. Right? Then the next category of the instruction will be for your pointers. In the pointer instructions, we use the two notation. One is used to get the ampersand, which is used to get the address, and a star, which is used to get the value at the address. That is the ampersand and the star, they are used, or the asterisk they are used. X equal to ampersand y. So the address of y is copied to x. X equal to star y. Content at that address given by the y is copied to the x over there. Right? So this will be regarding your pointer variable. The handling the pointer variables, we use this method. Fine. The same notation is used for your array index. You can remember A of I of j. That is, array is nothing but the starting point. From there, how many jump we need to make. Fine. So that is the same notation is used. Fine. So now let us take this value. Consider this example. Do I equal to I plus 1 while A of I less than V. And if we try to write the 3 address code for this one, how it will be? Fine. So what was our instruction? Do I equal to I plus 1, that is I need to make plus 1 I need to make first. That I need to copy to the temporary variable t1. Then I need to copy to the t I equal to t1. Then next I need to move to the next address. Then I need to move to the next address. That is T2 will be equal to, since it is a byte measuring, we will multiply this I with the 8 over there. So that the byte address we can get. Then we will take the value from it. Then we take the value from it. That is A of I. That is T3 will be equal to A of T2. A of T2. Then we check the condition. If what is our A of I? A of I is our T3. If T3 less than V, if T3 less than V, then we will go to, so we will put some label over here, go to some label, go to label L, that L will be present over here like this. So this is how it will be converted into the 3 address code. Fine. So here first step is I equal to I plus 1. That is split into 2 steps over there. First I am doing the I plus 1. I will copy to the T1. That value I will copy to the I. Then I need to get the value of A of I. So I value is in a memory index. You need to remember that one. That I will multiply by 8 since it is in byte addresses. We are multiplying by 8. That value at that memory index will be taken and copied to the T3. The T3 I will check with the IV. If it is less than V, then I will go to L. Again I will go for the I equal to I plus 1. This will be repeated. This will be repeated as long as this condition is true. It's an unconditional jump instruction. This is a conditional jump instruction. The same thing you can observe over here. First, I value is copied to the T1. Next, that will be copied to the I. Then I is multiplied by 8. This instruction is used to convert your byte addresses. That is your byte addresses. We are using this one. T2 will be equal to I into 8. Then the value at that T2 is taken to the T3. Then we are checking the condition. If T3 is less than V, then we will go to that label L. Fine. This is one method. This is one method where the labels are used explicitly over here. Where the labels are used explicitly. In the second method, in the position, fine. So other way of representing this one, these labels. Here we need to give the label explicitly over here. In place of this one, if we go for the positional notations, line number 100 is the first one, line number 101, line number 102, line number 103, line number 104. If T3 is less than V, then I will go to the line number 100. In place of using the explicit labels, we can use the positional numbers may be used over there. The position numbers might be used over there. Fine. Even that notation is also allowed. Fine. So this is how we go for converting into the 3 address code. This is how we go for converting into the 3 address code. I hope it is clear. The next will be your quadruples. Fine. So the 3 address code instructions what we have learned till now, the representation for these 3 address instructions will be your quadruples, triples and the indirect triples. Fine. These are the 3 notations what we use for the representing the 3 address code. Fine. So the first question in this module will be on the 3 address code. Then the next one will be on the quadruples. Fine. So that is the your different notations, quadruple, triple and the indirect triple. Let us learn the writing the quadruple, triple and the indirect triple now. So now as the name itself indicates, quadruple, quad means what? 4. So quadruple, quad means 4. That is, it is represented by 4 entities over there. That is, each structure is having the 4 components over there. Those 4 components are, the first one is your operator. Then the second one will be your argument 1. Let me write it as A1, that is argument 1. Then next one will be your argument 2. Then next one will be your argument 3. So if you observe, so suppose let me take the instruction as x plus y star z. So this was our instructions. So when we go for the 3 address code, so how it will be? T1 will be equal to y star z. T1 is a y star z. Then T2 will be equal to x plus T1. So this was our 3 address code. So now when we go for representing that one in the quadruple, how it will be? First operator. Operator is a star. Operator is a star. So let me write it as in the table notation only. Operator is a star. Argument 1. What is the argument 1 over there? Y. Argument 2. Argument 2 is z. Then the result. The last field is not A3. It is the last field is not A3. It is for the result field. It is for the result field. This is for result. Let me write the result as R. So now result field is a T1 over there. Fine. It may be present in the line number say 100. Then the line number 101 will be the next instruction. What is the next instruction over there? Operator is plus. The operands arguments are, the first argument is x. Second argument is a T1. And result will be stored in the T2. The result will be stored in the T2. Fine. This representation we call it as the quadruple representation. This representation we call it as the quadruple representation. Now the obvious question appears. Now it is works well. Okay, sir, we agree for the binary operator. What about the unary operator? The next question is, it is well fine for your binary operator. What about the unary operator? Suppose I have a minus y. So since this minus is already having a binary meaning, let me write in word as minus over there, minus. So now to represent this one, how we will write is minus the first field. Second argument 1 is y. I don't have the argument 2, I will leave it blank. Then I will copy it to the result. Then I will copy if it is a T1 equal to minus y. Then I will copy the result to the T1 over there. That is, argument 2 will be left blank for the unary operator. Argument 2 will be left blank for the unary operator over there. Then the next one, argument like a parameter passing. Fine. So in those cases, we write it as a parameter x. Both argument 2 and the result field are left blank. Both the argument 2 and the result fields were left blank over there. Fine. So that representation is the quadruple representation. That representation is the quadruple representation. Fine. So now let us consider the example over here. What is our example? A equal to B star C plus B star minus C. B star minus C plus B star minus C. How it will be done? First, let me write it. First one is T1. What is to be solved over there? It is a minus C. Fine. Then T2. T2 is a B star T1. Then T3. Again it is a minus C. Then T4 is a B star T3. Then T5 will be T2 plus T4. Then A equal to T5. So this is our 3 address code. This is our 3 address code, wherein in one step we will perform only one operation over there. In one step we will perform only one operation over there. Fine. So now if I go for writing the quadruple representation for this one. So quadruple representation will have the 4 fields over there. The first one will be your OP field, that is your operator field. Then the next one is your argument 1. Next one is your argument 2. And the last one will be your result field. Fine. First line number, let me take the line number as 100. But the first one minus, that is unary. Let me write in words over there, minus. So this wording I am writing just to differentiate between the unary and the binary minus. That's it. So see, no second argument. I am copying the value to the T1. Next line number 101. Line number 101. Operator is a star. Operand is a B. The second operand is a T1. I will store the result to the T2. Then the next one is line number 102. Again it is minus C. I will store it in T3. Next line number 103. Again it is operator is a star. Operator is a star. I will multiply B with the T3. I will store the result to the T4. Store the result to the T4. Then line number 104. Operator is a plus. I will add the values of T2 with the T4 and I will store the result in T5. Next operator is equal to, operand is a T5. Result I will copy to the A. Right? So this will be your quadruple representation. This is the quadruple representation for this expression. Fine. So you can see the thing over here. The same thing will be written over here in the quadruple representation. Fine. Then what is the variant, the triplet? So this will be your quadruple representation. That is 3 address code is converted into quadruple representation. And you may have a doubt in your mind, sir, this B star minus C is repeated over here. Why I should do it again? Fine. So in the quadruple and the triple representation, fine, in the directed acyclic graph, normally we go for eliminating the duplicates. If a direct question is for the 3 address code generation, no need to have the common expression. Common expressions you can repeat it, or if you are willing, even you can write this one as a here T. These two you can skip and you can directly write it as a T2 plus T2 order. Even that is also valid. Even that is also valid. Both are valid representations over there. Right? And this is how we go for generating the quadruple representation. Then the next one, triple representation. Fine. So in the quadruple representation, if you observe here, I am using the temporary variables over here. I am using some temporary variables over here. So those temporary variables we can avoid. How we can avoid, you can ask. Here I am writing the T1. So in place of T1, it is at the line number 0. I can take the line number 0, the result from the line number 0. Fine. Here again T3. So T3 is the result of the line number 2. I can write the line number 2. Then next here T2 is line number 1 and the line number 3 I can add up. Line number 1 and the 3 I can add up and I can do. Fine. That is these triple representation will make use of these positions, these line numbers, record numbers. We'll make use of, in place of having the temporary variables, we make use of this one. Now what happens? No need of that result field. Now no need of that result field. We can avoid that result field. So how many arguments left out now? Now left out is the operator, argument 1 and the argument 2. So now how many things are there? 3 things are there. That's why the name triples. That's why the name triples. Alright. So that is the triples will have only 3 fields now. What are the 3 fields? Operator, argument 1 and the argument 2. Which field we have discarded? We have discarded the result field. Then how to use those result field? You use the positional values over there. That is the record number. You can directly use the record number can be used over there. So in place of having the temporary variables. If we go for having the temporary variables, what happens? Most of the cases, this is going to be filled with the temporary variables, all the temporary variables. Then the obvious question, sir, what to do for that last statement? What is the last statement? The A I need to copy. I need to copy this A. This A I can put it to the argument here. But the result of the step 4 is copied to the A. Right? So this can be done. So that we can avoid having the additional field of result over there. I can avoid having the additional field of result we can avoid. Fine. That representation you can see over here. That representation you can see. In place of having the result field, this is how we are doing. Fine. So now look how we have handled that A equal to. That A I am putting into the argument 1, the result I am putting to the argument 2. Fine. That is A equal to your result of this step 4. That is the meaning. What is the result of the step 4? That is a B star minus C plus B star minus C. That we are adding. That is in place of having the temporary variables. Now this was replaced to T1 and that was used over here. Now this is discarded. Directly I am using the positional value 0. Again I am using the positional value 2. 1 and the 3 are added to get the 4. The content of 4 is copied to the A. This representation we call it as the triple representation, wherein only 3 fields are there. Operator, argument 1 and the argument 2. Then the one more variation to this one will be your indirect triples. So in the triples, we are making the things directly pointing over there. That is directly we are going to that location, 0, 1 and the 2. Suppose I want to rearrange. The entire table is need to be rearranged over there. If I want to make some minor corrections over there, then the entire content is to be rearranged over there. Right? So is there any steps with which we can avoid this one? The answer is yes, we have a step. What is that method? That is your indirect triple. In place of having the direct over there, so what we will do is, we will store those pointers over here. It is a one more table. Now we store the pointer over here, 0, 1, 2, 3 and all, we are storing the pointers. Fine. So that is, now we are making the one more table wherein we are giving the sequence, in which sequence it is to be executed, by you making them pointing to that one. Fine. That is an alteration to the triples. Fine. So if I want to make any changes, I can make the change for the line number 2. I want to make a change. I will make the change in the line number 6. That one I will put where the line number 2 is needed here. I will put the 6 one. That is, no need to reshuffle the entire table. Just making a minor alteration to the table will yield me the result. That is an advantage of having the indirect triples. Fine. That is, indirect triples are also triples. They are triple representations over there. But with that one, those triple address will store it in a table. The sequence of execution will store it in a table. Those table is pointing to the triple again. Those table is pointing to the triple. Then the question is why it is needed. If we want to make any changes, then the usefulness come to picture. You can make only those changes and you can make them to point to that address. So that no need to rewrite the entire table is needed. So that is the advantage of having the indirect triple. Fine. So these are the 3 representations normally they will ask in the exam. That is quadruples, triples and the indirect triples. Then the last topic of this one is your static single assignment form. So in these cases, what happens is, normally what we will do is, whenever the variable is no longer needed. Suppose what we are doing, P equal to A plus B, then Q equal to P minus C. That is what is the meaning of this one. This is A plus B minus C. Again, P equal to Q star D. So what is the Q? A plus B minus C star D. So this result I am multiplying with the D over there. Then again P equal to we are doing. That is, once we feel that it is not needed, we are reusing that variable. That's what our human tendency is. Whenever we feel the numbers are no longer of use, we are going to reuse them. That's why you may observe that whenever you take any new SIM card, what happens is you may get some unknown calls over there, wherein they will ask for somebody else. Right? So how this will happen? Because that number has been given to someone else and they have discontinued using that one and they have reallotted that number to you people. That's why you are going to get the calls over there. Right? This is what our human tendency, this is how the society works. Whenever we feel that things are of not used, we are going to reuse it in the later stages. But if in some point of time I want the value of A plus B. Assume that in some point of time I want the value of A plus B. So now what I need here, I want the value of A plus B. I can't use the P over there because it is already altered. I can't have the value of the P over there. Even though initially I have done my value and I will put it to the P, but in the later stages I have overwritten it. So now what is the setback over there? Again I need to recalculate it. Even though we are reusing it, that is one feature. But if it is needed in future, I am not able to use it. So now what is the alternate solution for that one? The solution for it is your static single time assignment. Every time we will create a new variable. How it is possible? We give the subscript over there. First time usage P1. Second time usage P2. Next time usage P3. So that every time it will going to create a new variable. That is your static single assignment, means for each variable you are assigning only once. You are assigning only once over there. So that in the later point of time, if I need a plus b, I can use the p1 over here again. P1 is having the a plus b. You can directly use. Fine. That is the advantage we get when we go for reusing it. But it will create lot of variables. So that is your static single assignment form. That is your static single assignment form. Fine. So now, if I go for this notation, what is this one? If flag is true, that is the meaning. If flag is true, then I will set the value of x equal to -1. If it is false, then I am setting the value of x equal to 1. Then I will put y equal to x into a. So now x I am reusing over here. Now I am reusing over here. One in this case, one in this case. If I replace with x1 and x2, now what this x should be, whether it is x1 or x2, that is the question. Static single time assignment means only one time you can assign the value, that's it. Either in the, when it is true or the false. Now you are having the two variables, x1 and x2. Then how to handle these cases in the static single time assignment? Now to handle these cases, we have a other function. So when it is the case, now we will have a x will take up the value, x3 will take up the value from x1 or x2. That depends on the condition. I will take the value. That value I will use it for the calculation of the y. Y equal to x3 star a. That x1 or the x2 is going to give the value for the x3. This is how we will solve that solution. This is how we can handle the static single assignment form can be handled over there. So when you need to club the values, this is what you can see over here. If flag x1 equal to -1, x2 equal to 1, then we take the value of it. That is your phi function we are using to get the value. One value out of the x1 and the x2 we can get using the phi function over there. So this will be regarding your three address code. So in this session we learned to write the three address code, a quadruple representation of the three address code, indirect triple representation of the three address code, and the indirect triple representation of the three address code. Along with that one, we learned the static single time assignment over there. The contents for this video are taken from the textbook Alfred V. Ho, Monica S. Lam, Ravi Sethi, Jeffrey D. Ullman. These are the authors. Textbook is Compilers, Principles, Techniques and the Tools. It's in Pearson Publications, 2nd edition, 2007. Thank you.